What if your erection could start improving tomorrow morning, not with a pill, but with the first 10 seconds after you wake up? Most men over 60 never realize that erectile difficulty begins long before intimacy. It begins the moment the body switches from sleep circulation to daytime circulation. And in that short transition, the penis is the first organ to feel the drop in blood flow. That is why a precise action during those first seconds can immediately change how your intimate area reacts. Erection is not magic. It is pressure. When enough blood enters the chambers inside the penis, it becomes firm. When the blood arrives slowly, the erection is weak or does not appear. After 60, the microvessels that bring this blood become stiff overnight. They do not open on their own when you wake up. They need a signal. And that signal must be given before the body fully gets up, because this is when the vessels are most sensitive to a deliberate trigger. Here is the simple science. Deep breathing pushes the diaphragm down and increases abdominal pressure. Pelvic contraction pushes blood toward the lower region. And a controlled hand pressure below the navel guides this blood into the pelvic network. Even a child could understand it if you said it this way: you are sending more water through a narrow hose by pressing in the right places. The hose opens, and the flow increases. Now the step-by-step you must follow as soon as you open your eyes. Do not stand up. Sit on the edge of the bed. Keep your back straight. Inhale for 4 seconds. As you exhale, tighten the pelvic muscles as if stopping urine. Place your hand 2 fingers below your belly button and press gently downward for 2 seconds. Repeat the pelvic contraction once more. This combination triggers the reflex that opens the vessels leading to the penis. Many men feel warmth or a pulsing sensation within moments. Before you continue, check if you are already subscribed to the channel. And tell me in the comments, type flow if you want to improve your circulation, or action if you will try this first thing tomorrow. If you have ever wondered why your erection feels weaker specifically in the morning, the explanation is far more mechanical than emotional. Men over 60 often assume that reduced firmness is caused by hormones or aging alone, but the primary reason is something that happens quietly every night: the gradual slowdown of blood flow to the smallest vessels that supply the penis. These microvessels stiffen while you sleep, and when you wake up, they do not immediately reopen. That stiffness is the real barrier preventing a strong morning response. During sleep, your body lowers its blood pressure, your heart rate drops, and the vessels in your pelvis narrow to conserve energy. In younger men, those vessels bounce back quickly upon waking. But with age, the endothelial lining inside them loses elasticity. Think of a thin rubber tube that slowly becomes harder over time. When you try to push water through it, the water struggles to pass. The same happens with blood trying to reach the erectile chambers at the moment you wake up. This is why your erection feels inconsistent. The signal from your brain is not enough if the pathway is physically tight. The penis is ready to respond, but the blood cannot reach it at the speed required to create adequate pressure. And since erections operate like a hydraulic system, slow flow means weak firmness, no matter how intact your desire is. The key point is that this limitation is not permanent. These vessels can be trained to open faster, but they need consistent stimulation. When you apply deliberate morning actions, you are not trying to force an erection. You are teaching your vessels to regain flexibility. Every time you increase pressure through breathing, pelvic movement, or guided abdominal force, you are restoring elasticity that has been lost with years of inactivity. This is exactly why the method you learned in the previous topic works so quickly. You are addressing the true cause, not the surface symptom. If this explanation is making things clearer for you, take a second to support the video by leaving a like. It shows that this type of detailed, science-based guidance matters to you and encourages me to bring even more precise content. What if your body already had a built-in switch capable of improving your erection in seconds, and all it needed was the right combination of signals? Most men assume an erection depends on arousal first, but from a medical perspective, the body responds to pressure and blood movement long before desire plays any role. That means you can activate the erectile reflex even in the absence of sexual stimulation. You simply need to trigger the system that opens the vessels and redirects blood to the penis. This trigger is what I call the physiological switch. It is not a technique invented recently. It is a natural reflex your body has carried since childhood. When certain muscles contract and certain breathing patterns occur together, the nervous system interprets it as a command to increase pelvic blood flow. As men age, they stop performing these movements without noticing. The reflex does not disappear, it just goes unused. The switch works because three mechanisms activate at the same time. First, the contraction of the pelvic floor sends blood downward like a pump. Second, deep nasal breathing increases abdominal pressure, pushing that blood into the lower vessels. Third, applying gentle pressure below the navel guides the flow into the area that feeds the erectile chambers. When these actions happen in sequence, the parasympathetic nervous system releases nitric oxide, the molecule that expands blood vessels almost instantly. Think of it like opening 3 valves in the right order. Alone, each valve barely changes anything. Together, they create a surge of blood that the penis is designed to respond to. This is why many men feel warmth or a subtle pulse within moments of doing the routine. That sensation is not imagined. It is the vessels opening and the erectile chambers beginning to receive pressure again. And once your body remembers this pattern, the switch becomes faster each morning, reacting in seconds rather than minutes. Now that you understand how the physiological switch works, you need a clear, precise routine that activates it every single morning. This is not a stretch, not a warm-up, not a relaxation exercise. It is a targeted sequence designed to push blood into the pelvic vessels and instruct your body to reopen the pathways that support a firm erection. Follow it exactly as described, because the order of the actions is what produces the reaction. The moment you wake up, do not stand up. Your circulation is still too slow, and rising immediately prevents the vessels from receiving the right stimulus. Instead, sit on the edge of the bed with your back straight. This position frees the nerves responsible for pelvic blood flow and removes pressure from the lower spine, which often restricts circulation in older men. Now take a deep breath through your nose for 4 seconds. You should feel your abdomen expand. This expansion increases internal pressure, and that pressure pushes blood downward. As you exhale, tighten your pelvic floor muscles as if you were trying to stop urine midstream. This contraction sends a direct mechanical signal to the vessels that feed the penis. Next, place your hand 2 fingers below your belly button and press downward toward your pelvis. Not hard, but with intention, as if you were guiding blood along a pathway. Hold this pressure for 2 seconds and repeat the pelvic contraction. This combination tells your parasympathetic system to release nitric oxide, which widens the vessels instantly. If you do this correctly, you may feel warmth or a subtle pulse in the intimate area. That is the first indication that blood is entering the erectile chambers. The more consistently you perform this sequence, the faster your body learns to respond. To understand why this method works so quickly, you need to know what happens inside the penis during those few seconds of targeted stimulation. An erection is nothing more than controlled blood pressure inside 2 chambers called the corpora cavernosa. These chambers act like small expandable pockets. When they fill with enough blood, they harden. When they don't, the penis stays soft, even if desire is present. After 60, the problem is rarely desire. It is that the chambers are not receiving pressure fast enough to expand. When you follow the morning routine, the first thing that changes is the speed of blood entering the pelvis. As abdominal pressure increases and the pelvic floor contracts, a surge of blood moves toward the arteries that supply the penis. These arteries contain smooth muscle that can open or close depending on the signals they receive. Deep breathing and guided pressure activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which releases nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for widening those vessels. As the vessels widen, the chambers inside the penis begin to fill. You may notice warmth first because increased blood flow raises local temperature. Then a soft pulse, which means the arteries are pushing blood into the erectile tissue. When enough blood enters, tiny spaces inside the chambers expand. The more they expand, the more blood becomes trapped. And the more firmness builds. This entire process can start within seconds because the erectile tissue is designed to respond quickly when the right pressure conditions are met. The issue is not that your body forgot how to do this. It is that the vessels became too stiff from inactivity. The morning sequence forces them to open, even if they have been unresponsive for years. One of the most surprising discoveries for many of my older patients is how quickly their erection begins to respond once the vessels start opening again. Most men assume that age slows everything down permanently, but physiologically that is not true. Aging slows the resting state of your circulation, but it actually increases your sensitivity to sudden changes in blood flow. This means that once the morning trigger pushes blood into the pelvic area, the body reacts with a speed that often surprises men over 60. When your vessels have been stiff or underused for years, the first real surge of blood creates a strong contrast. The erectile tissue, which has gone long periods without full expansion, becomes highly responsive the moment pressure increases. This is why many men report a very clear sequence, first a deep internal warmth, then a rhythmic pulse, and finally a noticeable sense of fullness. These reactions are not psychological. They are mechanical signs that the corpora cavernosa are starting to accept blood at a higher rate. The pelvic nerves also play a role. As circulation improves, these nerves awaken and begin sending stronger signals to the erectile tissue. When this happens, the erection does not depend only on physical pressure anymore. The nervous system reinforces the process, allowing firmness to build with less effort than expected. This is why older men often feel improvement earlier than younger men once the correct stimulus is applied. Your body is not failing, it is simply waiting for a clear command. And once you give that command consistently in the morning, the reaction time becomes faster. The vessels adapt. The nerves strengthen their signaling. The chambers inside the penis begin expanding more fully each day. What once felt slow and unreliable becomes quicker, more predictable, and more natural. The morning routine does more than create an immediate reaction. With consistent practice, it begins to reshape how your circulatory system behaves throughout the day. Most men assume that erections weaken because the body loses capability. What actually happens is that the vessels lose flexibility from inactivity. When you perform the targeted morning sequence, you are not only triggering a temporary response. You are training your vessels to become more elastic again. Every time you increase abdominal pressure, contract the pelvic floor, and guide blood downward, the endothelial lining inside the vessels receives a stretch. This stretch encourages the release of nitric oxide, which not only opens the vessels in the moment, but also teaches them to open more easily in the future. Over time, the tissue becomes less rigid, more responsive, and more capable of carrying enough blood to create a firm erection. It is the same principle that applies to muscles or joints. Repeated activation restores function. Another important change happens in the pelvic nerves. When blood flow improves regularly, these nerves regain sensitivity. They begin reacting faster and sending stronger signals to the erectile chambers. This means your body no longer depends solely on the morning trigger. Gradually, spontaneous erections or faster reactions during intimacy return because the system has been retrained to work efficiently. Men often notice that the first signs of improvement are subtle: easier warmth in the area, less heaviness, quicker response when they use the routine. Then, as the days progress, the firmness becomes more reliable. Not because the routine is forcing the erection, but because the body is learning to behave the way it once did naturally. Consistency turns a technique into a biological habit. And once this habit is formed, the vessels and nerves begin supporting your erections with far less effort than before. If you stayed with me until the end of this video, that already tells me something important: you are serious about improving your erection naturally and giving your body the chance to react the way it used to. Before you leave, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss the next step of this process. And since you reached the final minute, I want you to comment a single word below: committed. If you type this, I will know you are ready to apply what you learned and stay consistent with it. If this video helped you understand your body better, take a moment to leave a like. It supports the channel and helps this information reach other men who need it just as much. And do not stop here. The next video appearing on your screen continues this journey and goes even deeper into rebuilding your natural male strength. Watch it now and take the next step.